Hi, I'm Jennifer Shryock, and today I'm going to talk to you about one of my favorite subjects, a really important one, and it's the 5 types of supervision. So, when there are kids and dogs, the number one recommendation for everybody is supervise, right? But what does supervision really mean? Well, let's talk about that a little bit. So here you have my a handout that you can find on the familypaws.com website. This is free. It's available. Make it posters. Do whatever you want with it. And it goes over the 5 types of supervision. So there's absent, passive, reactive, proactive, and active. So we're going to expand on each one of these. We know that in today's world, everybody is busy. Right? We're juggling a lot of things. And with pandemic, it's been even more so. We're juggling more things than we ever knew we could. So with all of that going on, you can see why supervision is going to change over time, even in a short amount of time. And there are risks to that. And there are ways to prevent some of those risks. So talking about it and being mindful is really what we're looking for here. Because the more you're aware, the more that you can increase your safety, make better decisions, and set everybody up for success. Absent supervision. What does absent supervision mean to you? To me, it means when an adult steps away, when they are not there. They are absent from having their eyes on the child. They are in another room, they are asleep, they are not aware, right? So this could mean they step outside to get the mail really quick. They fell asleep while the baby was playing on the floor. I mean, we know everybody gets tired if you lay on the couch. These things do happen, right? So we don't necessarily plan for this. It's just a part of our everyday, stuff, right? A lot of things change, and absent supervision can happen if we're not thinking ahead. So again, this is the most dangerous form of supervision that we're going to cover today. It is super dangerous because when you're not there, you're not aware. You don't know what's going on. And we are always striving for the most aware supervision possible. So I want you to think about what kinds of things in your life could lead to absent supervision and write that down. And then we'll talk about some solutions for that. Passive supervision. I'm guilty. We're all guilty. I think there's not a single one of us who doesn't enter into a stage of passive supervision multiple times throughout the day. I mean, let's face it, we're busy, right? We're juggling a lot of things. We have kids, dogs, other things going on. Some of us are caring for older parents. There's a lot of different things that we're paying attention to. And especially working from home, there's even more, right? So what does passive supervision really mean? It means you are there, but you're distracted. You're paying attention to something else. You are passively supervising. Your body is physically there, but you might have your back to the child. You might be on the phone. You might be working on emails, and you're not going to necessarily see what your child is doing. Okay? So think about it again. Before I asked you to write down some of the situations in your life where you think absent supervision might come into play. And now I want you to do the same thing for passive supervision. Jot down times that you have recognized that you're passively supervising. And then we'll think of some solutions for that. So maybe on your paper you have absent supervision and a couple of things listed under there. Now you write down passive supervision and jot down a couple of ideas where you might feel that you have passively supervised. And on the other side of the paper, we're going to talk about some solutions. As we say, all the stages of supervision it's a continuum, right? So we can be absently supervising, and then we can walk in the room and be on our laptop and go to passively supervising all in a minute, right? But we also can then float right into reactive supervision. So if you're passively supervising and you have a newly crawling baby, it's very, very likely that if your dog is in the room and your child could have access to your dog, your child will try to get access to your dog. And so we go from passive supervision to reactive supervision, because when your child crawls up to your dog, most likely you're going to react. You're going to want to intervene. So what I want to stress here is that this is something that I want everybody to proactively prevent. We'll talk about that in a minute, because what happens here is this dog, you see here, this golden retriever is looking like, hey, help me out. When reactive supervision happens, when the baby has gained access or approached the dog, it is the time that the dog usually is seeking help, makes eye contact with the trusted adult, and starts to show stress signals. Once a child has closed the gap, we're going to see things like lip licking, head turning, whale eye, breathing changes, stiffness, sudden scratching, sudden licking of their paws, maybe yawning. All these things are really, really great communication signs that our dog is stressed, our dog is uncomfortable with the situation, and our dog would like some distance. So in this situation, when, we go, uh-oh, and, now we're kind of, the baby's too close, so our natural response is to go, no, or pick up the child. I want to say here, obviously the first thing is we want to prevent this situation from happening. We'll talk about that next. But we want to be careful. In this situation, I would call the dog to me as much as possible. Or I'd go and get in between the child and the dog. What I don't want to do is react to a point that I'm going, hey, oh my gosh, no. And, because that inadvertently creates a stress around the baby being near. So our dog easily, especially if this kind of situation happens a lot, which I hope it doesn't, then our dog could easily associate baby coming close equals parent gets agitated, right? And that creates a negative association. So what we want is to, one, prevent this from happening. But if we find ourselves in this situation, we want to get in between, and we want to try not to overreact. Okay, so we want to distract the dog or distract the child. This is where I love being able to say to my dog, "Who's a boy?" and he wags his tail or does something cute. Or I offer a touch, and he comes to me and puts his nose on my hand. So I want to do something to distract the child or redirect the dog or one or the other to get out of that situation and remove. Okay, so reactive supervision is concerning, and it's something we want to prevent. I really, really can't emphasize that enough. It is something we want to prevent from happening over and over again. Because if our dog becomes used to or expects a child is going to enter their space, and they're uncomfortable, then over time, they might start anticipating the child, and they might start reacting even when the child's a far distance away, and that can start to move into what we don't want, are more the growls and the bites and things like that. We want to prevent the situation as much as possible. This is where prevention comes into play. We want to be sure that we have crates, gates, play yards, barriers, and that is essential. If we're going to be busy doing something, we want to be proactive, and the dog is going to be separated so that our dog is safe and comfortable and our baby's safe and comfortable. When the dog is on the floor, it's not time for the baby to explore. That is for sure. So if your child, especially during these very, very unpredictable, fast developmental milestone reaching stages, we're going to want to have some separation. I know, this is really hard for a lot of people to hear. And I want to just say to you, what I say to the families that I support. I know it's difficult to set up different types of management at times, and you want to include your family dog. But what I'm suggesting to you is that by having the separation so that your dog feels safe and comfortable, we are actually setting the stage for long-term success. Because as your child is going through this really fast growth and in development and is so unpredictable, your dog is not developing a nice, fun relationship with your child if they are feeling unsafe, stressed, anxious, anticipating rough touch, all those things. Nor is it fun for you to always be getting in between and concerned. And bites and growls tend to happen when we allow babies at this young age, so newly crawling, newly walking, to fully, freely explore with a dog loose or dogs loose. It's just not a good mixture. That said, when we provide proactive supervision and we set up dog and baby and parents up for success, we usually don't create that negative association, and we can then move into inclusion with parent-guided interaction and parent-guided activities much faster than if we've had an incident where trust is broken. So this is critical. And I know you all want that loving bond. And so having a gate or having a temporary play yard or those kinds of things, remember, it is just that, it's temporary. You will move into other stages. And having a Family Pause parent educator to help guide you through those stages and help you through this time can be super, super helpful, because we can include the dog in different exercises and activities, and we can support you through that in a way that's customized for you and your family and safe with your child and your dog. So proactive supervision is critical. It is super important that whatever management tool you have, whatever management choice you have, you also have to remember that, it's going to change over time. Management has to change and evolve over time. So what works at 3 months is going to change at 6 months. What works at 6 months is definitely going to change at a year. So we're going to continue to change and grow with baby and our dogs as they age. It's got to change. So, think about that. And again, that's where having a Family Pause parent educator who's familiar with those types of changes can really be helpful for the long-term success of that relationship that you are striving for. So this is one example. There's lots of creative ideas out there as far as management, as far as play yards, as far as barriers. So, as creative as you can be is what will work. But having that separation, now here's the thing where people struggle. If your dog is not used to being separated, this could be a very challenging time. So again, that's where having a professional to support and walk you through helping your dog realize that on the other side of this gate, brilliant things happen. It's a really good thing. That can be really helpful. It's ideal for everybody to practice management prior to baby even being born. I like to start different types of management in every home I sent fosters to or have adopted out dogs, it's really important that your dog is able to comfortably be separated while you're in the home. So if you see that as a problem or you have issues related to that, you want to definitely reach out so we can support you to make it a positive experience as much as possible. All right, so proactive supervision, we're going to set up something ahead of time so that our dog and baby can be successful. Remember, keeping in mind, these barriers are not forever, but a little bit of prevention goes a long way towards that loving bond down the road. We don't want to burn out our dogs or create a negative association with them early on. Sometimes once that trust is broken, we're not going to get it back. Whether it's broken between the parent and the dog or the baby and the dog or the dog and the baby, sometimes once those relationships fall apart at this stage, we don't get them back. So I really encourage you to think about your proactive supervision. So on that sheet of paper where you have absent and passive, on the right side, do proactive supervision. I want you to list the management tools you think might work for you. Gate, crate, play yard, open floor plans, often it's a play yard. X-pens, dog X-pens can be helpful. And we're not saying that it has to be for the dog or the baby, but all different options. You're using these as a divider, right? Sometimes we will need double barriers. There are times, because as you see, there's slats here. So here there's like things in the way. So the baby's, there's something blocking. So they're not going to reach through. But sometimes we have to use double barriers because a dog's going to be right up to the gate. And we don't want little ones sticking their fingers in or reaching over. So there's lots of problem solving that we need to do and think about. I guarantee, there's always kids who outsmart management. So we have to plan alternatives. For some dogs, that's going to mean a basket muzzle. For other families, it's going to mean double gates. That's not unusual. That really can happen. But it's better to be safe and to have those situations and thoughts, and work it out ahead of time, being creative, than to have a situation where you're concerned now if the dog can stay in your home and if something has happened. So it's always better to proactively think this through. So on that right side of your page, jot down what kinds of management tools do you think you could have. Look at gates. If you have a child-proofing specialist in your area, check that out. There's lots of different options, and an educator would be happy to support you in that as well. Okay, so what is active supervision? This is what we really want, right? Awake, adult, aware supervision. So let's break this down. Awake, yes, we have to say it because unfortunately sometimes we might be right there and maybe we took some Benadryl and doze off. It's super important. Those things we never want them to happen. Sometimes it can, and we need to be aware. So if we have an older parent who is watching our child or anybody with a medical condition, again, are they able to be aware all the time? Might they be taking medication that makes them less aware? Might they have a condition that makes them less aware? If their dog is there, we want to make sure that the parent or the trusted adult or the caretaker is fully aware. So aware also means awake, obviously, but aware also means, do they know what they're looking at? This seems like a really, really, really simple question, but this is the number one problem. Everybody says they're supervising. Supervising is great, but you can tell me you're supervising your kid riding a dog. You might say your dog looks fine. I'm going to say no, he doesn't. Because I'm using my dog aware skills. I'm looking at his ears, his eyes, his tail, his muzzle. I'm gathering all those clues to solve the puzzle. Our dogs are always communicating with their body language. It is our job as dog lovers and as families that have dogs as part of our family It's our job to learn how they communicate. Most of us have some dog-aware skills, but I'm here to tell you, after 20 years of specializing in this field, I am constantly growing my dog-aware skills. There is every dog, every situation, I'm learning more and more about how my dogs communicate with their ears, their eyes, their tail, their muzzle. And I invite you to increase and strengthen and grow and build your dog-aware skills. Because if you're actively supervising, you're not aware supervising unless you strengthen your dog-aware skills. So you could be actively supervising an unsafe situation because you're not as familiar with how your dog communicates. This is key. So whether it's through Family Paws or whether it's through doggoncrazy.ca or the Family Dog or Good Dog in a Box, there are lots of resources out there that I invite you and encourage you to go and explore and learn about dog body language. It is essential to safety if you have children and dogs in the same space ever. So please, please, please look to build, strengthen, and grow your dog-aware skills so that you can say that you're actively an aware supervisor when your child and dog are on the scene. So that's also another common phrase that I say, dog and baby on the scene, a parent in between. So a parent or an adult in between. This is essential because then you're actively supervising. If you notice your dog is stressed, again, maybe lip licking, head turning, whale eye, so you notice he's like peering at the child, all those things, sniffing, scratching, yawning a lot. Maybe it's time to give more space. Those are usually distance increasing behaviors when a child is too close. So if you notice those things while you're actively supervising, then you can offer your dog another option. Maybe let them go in another room, maybe behind a gate, maybe even 10 feet away on a mat, whatever is going to work for you and your dog. But if you don't know what you're looking at, you might very well be supervising inefficiently. And so our goal with Family Paws is to increase your dog-aware skills and embrace you where you are with those dog-aware skills. I know many people think a wagging tail means happy dog, but a wagging tail means a lot of different things when we combine all the body language. So I encourage you to increase and strengthen and build your dog-aware skills so that you can be a fully active and aware supervisor and help your family dog. So that is what I wanted to cover with you all today. I hope that you have a list of absent supervision situations and passive supervision situations. On your other side of the page, I hope you've broken down some ideas of management, okay? Some things you can do to proactively supervise. And then I also hope that you wrote down some things about actively supervising and aware supervision. What to look for, learning about dog body language. Again, the websites that I mentioned, doggoncrazy.ca, The Family Dog, Good Dog in a Box. All of these are great websites that can give you information and help expand your dog-aware skills. So I hope that this was helpful. If you have a question or comment, you can always reach out, leave a comment, and reach out to me, and I'm happy to answer them. All right, happy supervising.